So there's the management aspect. So the therapist is able to work with the participant. They're able to go through a process of compiling a program that can be done at home. Is that an enhancement to the way that therapy was being done before Theratrak, or are you kind of innovating the therapy model with Theratrak?
It's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, I think.
Okay.
You know, the way that we've always done things in the past as therapists is scribbled amazing stick figure drawings on a piece of paper for you and said, okay, I want you to do it in this direction, or I want you to do it at this time, and then the piece of paper gets stuck on the fridge and forgotten about, or stuck down the back of the car and gets forgotten about, or the email gets lost in your inbox somewhere. So we've always, I guess, as therapists, we've always communicated that things need to be done at home or in the community somehow. What we guess we're changing with Theratrak is putting that in people's pockets, because it's on an app. You know, our phones are with us, hopefully not 24/7, but our phones are with us for most of the day, right? And especially with parents, that's where they organize all of their days. That's where they organize all their school pickups. That's where they get all the communication from teachers. So by putting all of this information in that same place for a parent, it makes it a lot easier, I guess, and I hope in the long run, for them to be able to do all the things that we want them to do at home, and then hopefully for their kid to reach their goals just that little bit faster, and not need to go to therapy, you know, and not need to be stuck in therapy for a long time. Like, that would be amazing, right?
Yeah. Look, that is great. You were saying a little bit earlier that there was always a challenge in getting that kind of motivation, and you're sort of talking about the not trying to have Theratrak become too. This is not the word you use, this is the way I understood it, but too gamified. It was more about actually finding the right ways to achieve that actual motivation and that change. Is that the word track? Is that the tracking part of it?
Yeah. So the whole idea with Theratrak is to be able to track progress outside of therapy, and being able to see how many gains you've made, to then be able to go, oh my gosh, I've done so much better. I don't think gamification is off the cards. I think there's lots of ways that we can gamify Theratrak in the future. I mean, that's how kids learn, right? Kids learn through play, and using that as a motivator is not a bad thing, right? It's a way to help them feel intrinsically motivated to participate in the activity. It's definitely, I think, the gamification side, when it comes to behavior change, and when it comes to helping humans do things that are tricky and that aren't their preferred thing, feeling that sense of achievement or that sense of reward from whatever you've done, it's definitely on the cards somehow. I haven't ruled that out, but I haven't figured out exactly what it is, because, like I said, I don't want it to become that, oh, I did my therapy, so I got my 5 coins or whatever. Because no, you should be doing therapy because it makes you feel good or whatever. So it's a tricky one to do. But I guess one of the cool things with Theratrak as well is that we've been co-designed since the start. So I have a group of therapists that I've worked with, and their clients that I've worked with from the start when Theratrak was first conceptualized, where we've been talking and figuring out and co-designing the platform. So they're the ones that help us figure out what are the features that we need next, and how do we build, maybe, is it the gamification? How do we build the intrinsic rewards? How do we build that into the platform? So it's not just obviously mind brain dump into one app, because that would be crazy.
Well, you are an occupational therapist, so I think you've got an advantage there of perhaps somebody like myself who I learnt many years ago that it didn't really matter what I thought. What matters is what my customers think, and so that co-design, co-create model is perfect. I love it. I think it's the right way to go with any type of innovation in the digital health space. You definitely got to have your customer in the room designing with you, and I refer to that as the why and the what, and then the technical side is figuring out how. But we need to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then the rest gets easier from that point on. Have you kind of found that experience as well, in managing a development team now and a process?
Yeah, I think the why is so important, especially in digital health, because you know, the why we're doing this is ultimately, at the end of the day, is to help people get better. You know, and how we get there is it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter, but it does matter. But if you know why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for, and who those customers are, I think that's significantly important, because obviously, you know, talking to someone who's a parent with, you know, 2 kids with a disability versus talking to someone who's an adult who's going through a physiotherapy program to help rehab their knee is a very different customer, and very different needs as to, you know, what sort of language you use, how you motivate that person, how you communicate with that person, and why you're doing certain things, why you build in different workflows for pediatric therapists versus someone who might work in a physio clinic. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a pediatric session, but they can get quite crazy, is probably the best word. You know, if you've got brother and sister in a room tearing the room apart, and the therapist is trying to give information to a parent, and all they're trying to do is stop the 2 kids from climbing up a slide, it can get chaotic. Yeah, I remember taking my UX designer when we very first started into a therapy session, and it was probably the funniest look I've ever seen on anyone's face as he walked out and went, "Whoa, your job is crazy." And it can be, I mean, it can be super fun, don't get me wrong, but knowing that who you're building for, you know, a therapist that's time poor, that's trying to manage and juggle everything, and a parent who's just trying to get through the day and get all the things that they need to do done so they can feel like a good parent, is very different to an adult who's in knee rehabilitation program, who's, you know, not going to sit there and tear your room apart, hopefully, is going to sit there and listen for 40 minutes. Versus it's a very different customer, that's for sure.
I haven't been to a pediatric session, but I'm empathizing. My daughter, Electra, is 4, and when my wife and I try and have conversations, she's just a powerhouse of energy, and we can't really have a proper conversation these days, because Electra just loves to engage with us, and so that's the closest I can come to it at this point in time, I think, in terms of that craziness. Yeah. Although it's adorable from my point of view, I absolutely love it.
Exactly. She's probably a powerhouse like Dad. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, look, contrary to my podcast persona, I actually can talk a lot. I love having conversations. Let me just get back on track. Let me get back on Theratrak. So there was a comment you just made there about the actually, just for those who perhaps haven't heard the acronym before, UX, that's the user experience design. Yeah, so you've brought somebody in to actually analyze the the interaction between the participants, their parents, with the Theratrak product.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's really important. Really important, knowing how it flows. Has been, for me anyway, I think that's a really key part of Theratrak is making sure it fits into the craziness that can be therapy.
Absolutely, and that's key. I talk with a lot of healthcare providers about designing what I call the digital healthcare experience, and that actually leverages what we've learned in technology around designing user experiences. You know, we can relate to the user experience through the interaction with the software. And extending that kind of idea and logic, I think healthcare could benefit from that kind of insight and knowledge that we've accrued over the years to design a therapy experience, you know, end to end, that starts from before the therapist even meets the participant, all the way through to the achievement of goals and beyond. But that's for another side. But UX, user experience, the experience, the human experience, I think is absolutely paramount in the way that we design digital healthcare innovations going forward. So it's great to hear that you've got a UX member on the team who's coming in and analyzing those things and doing the research on how to actually translate that into the software.